my screen and we'll start this this session off. Really excited about today. All right, everybody see the screen okay? I get some nods. Awesome. All right, so today's session, really excited. Got some great presenters today for us. Marty Miller, the regional tech trainer from the Keller Williams Texas South region, is here, along with Mike Hillary, who is the RTT from the Mid-American region. Going to give those guys a chance. Well, hello. Is that you, Marty?
Sorry, that was me. I'm muting it now. I'm with my kids.
No worries. All right, and then so we got Mike Hillary from the Mid-American region here as well too. We're going to give those guys a chance to introduce themselves in a bit, but again, we're going to be talking about winning more listings using command, because one of the things, and Mike and Marty and I had talked about this, that a lot of agents were asking for and looking for is, we're running a lot of Facebook ads these days. Everybody's getting excited about that. But the question that keeps popping up, at least that I see, is a lot of these leads are buyer leads that are coming in. How do we get listings, right? And so Mike and Marty and I talked about, hey, let's put something together to show our people how we can basically lead generate for listings, how we can nurture our relationships so that we win more business with listings. And then pending the time on here, we're going to give you some quick tips on some really cool features that we think that could help you at the closing table, really wow your sellers so that you close more. So that's really what we're looking at kind of accomplishing today. Anything you guys want to add to that, Mark, or Marty and Mike?
That's a good combo of our names.
Yeah, right. No, that sounds about right, John. Great introduction.
Okay, cool. So just want to talk about the objectives again. We got, the 3 L's, and rather than me talk the whole time, I'm going to let Marty, because Marty's a great productivity coach and he could probably explain this better than I can. What's the importance of the 3 L's and making sure that we're really striving to get more listings, Marty?
Well, absolutely, John. I think it's a great point. I mean, typically when you look at the amount of time in ROI, when we're looking at buyers versus sellers, we know typically that, statistics have shown us for every listing that we take, we should close 1 additional piece of business. Now, whether that's a buyer on our listing, a buyer that came from our listing, the listing, right? The sellers have to buy, somewhere along those lines. And so, it's really important that listings are a big part, if not the biggest part of our business. And we know as we continue to build out more and more listings, well, we are only one person. There are only 24 hours in a day. And to really achieve the goals that most of us have, we're going to need a little help, and that's where leverage comes in, making sure that you have the appropriate leverage to assist you with those listings as you begin to take them. And finally, we know that listings will create leads and that listings also come from leads. And so obviously the bottom of that triangle, typically, when you're brand new, you may have more leads than listings. As you get better and better at converting those leads, you'll get more listings and maybe not the leverage yet, and ultimately end up with that leverage. But it's very cyclical in that the 3 pieces really tie together to help produce a business that's, delivering at the level that we all choose to have as mega agents, or mega agents in training, as I like to think sometimes.
Yeah, and I like how listings really kind of helps with both those things. Like you mentioned, listings are going to, give you leads because you're going to get more home sellers, the more houses that you sell. You're going to get buyers from those listings. And then the leverage part of it too is just, we all know that we can work with a lot more listings than we can buyers. And at some point as we grow, I can handle probably 20 listings for every, 3 or 4 buyers that I have, because I'm not out in the field showing houses for 8 hours a day, right?
Yeah, for sure, right? And what better marketing tool than having your name and face all over the internet, all over the neighborhood, just because your sign is in a yard.
So yeah, last time I checked, they don't know when if I show a house in a certain neighborhood, I don't put a sign up while I'm in the house saying, hey, I'm showing this house, right? But when I have a listing, I certainly do put that sign with my name and face. So great point, Mike.
Yeah, so that's the whole objective of the class today, is to show you guys again how to lead generate for listings and to win more business with listings. So we're going to hop into it. I'm going to let Mike kind of take us through what this course is going to look like so that you guys know what to expect from the class today.
Yeah, so we already cleared the introduction, so you can cross 1 off your list, right? So we're going to dive into, what it really looks like to work your sphere in command, how you need to set up your world in order to get the most out of the people who already know, like, and trust you. we're going to talk about how you start building an online farm, right? This is really intriguing. I'm really curious to hear what we have in this one. And then lead generating for seller leads online, right? So how can you go find these potential sellers who are outside of your world? And then, you know, if we have time at the end, John said we'll cover some really cool things to do at the closing table.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and dive in. I know you guys thought this was going to be a technology class, but here's the deal, right? The fundamentals still matter, right? Command is built on the MREA lead generation model. So on the left, you'll see like, this is straight from the business planning clinic. You'll see this slide probably at Mega Camp in several spots. On the right, you know, John, you put this one together, right? This is kind of mapping all the different applets of Command to the entire process for your business, right? So we start with prospect and marketing. We have several tools here like campaigns, your consumer experience, referrals, using designs for all that. The whole goal is to capture their information. We're going to put that in contacts, right? So when we look at leads versus contacts, just want to be very clear. The definition of a lead is someone whose information we've captured that we're looking to initiate conversation with, right? So these are one-way and these are touch-based programs, right? When we look at contacts, these are people who we can stay in contact with, we can have a conversation with, right? And so these are more value touches, right? This is different than an offer touch. And from that point, right, as soon as we know, hey, you know what, I might be considering a move, then we go into cultivate. And so we can use smart plans and tasks to really make that process efficient, automate some of the initial reach outs. But again, these are relationships. You can't like automate a relationship. I still can't have an intelligent conversation with Alexa yet. So I think we're ways and ways away. Cool. So what does it look like to really work your sphere here, right? So let's dive in. So it's really just hanging out in contacts and smart plans, right? This is probably the core of Command. Everything ties back to your contact list. How clean is the data here? Do you have the right phone number? Do you have the right email? Do you have the right social accounts? Do you have their address, right? We need more than one way to get in front of these people. And so why are we starting with our sphere here? Well, I mean, think about it, right? These buyer leads coming in, they don't have to put up any money to work with you, right? These are, they get paid by the seller. The seller is the one who has the commission responsibility. And so when we look at it, it's got to be someone who knows us, who likes us and trusts us. So John, let's flip to the next slide here.
Well, this is the slide as far as that goes. So we're going to go into this one. Awesome.
Yep. Right. So we want this list of our sphere to be people who know, like, and trust us. It is not their job to remember us, right? There's a myth out there, right, that if you build it, they will come. In fact, the actual quote from Field of Dreams is, if you build it, he will come. This is about getting his father back to baseball. But here's the deal. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It could be real estate. It could be fast food. It could be, the coffee shop across the street from me. I think you guys can figure out what I did for breakfast. All businesses have to drive their customers to them, right? Because when we really think about it, the goal is we have to stay top of mind. John, let's look at this next slide. I did a little research late last night as I was prepping for this. And so I found a study done by Microsoft and published by Oracle that says in 2019, and this was towards the end of 2019, the average attention span was 8 seconds. So I know some of you have already tuned out just in the middle of that sentence, right? I mean, think about it. We get bombarded constantly, you have push notifications on your phone from different apps. You know, anytime you're online, there are ads interspaced within the actual content. Their goal is to take your attention, and they're doing very good at it. And so we have to be the first one to the table, first one in their head when they think real estate, right? Because when we look at the NAR statistics here, the number of agents that were contacted, 70% of sold sellers said they only talked to one agent. And so that's the name of the game, is you got to be there. So where are your clients at right now, right? Most of them are at home. All of them are on their phones. All of them are interacting mostly digitally. So how can you get in front of them, right? You know, truth is, you got to stay in touch, right? This is why having those social profiles in that contact card is critical, right? Because you may have to be proactive. Not everybody's going to respond to a phone call or a text, right? You have to know how your people prefer to communicate and reach out that way. So how would you stay in touch here, right? You know, so if we look at it, well, you know what, let's tune into a conversation that Gary had with an agent that I stole out of a book. So John, this is my next slide here, right? So for those of you who've ever taken 36-12-3, right, lead generation boot camp, you may have heard this story, right? So an agent talks to Gary, and this is by email, and basically the email says that 36 touch thing doesn't work. And so Gary responds, so tell me how you're doing it. And the agent sends back, well, I sent out these 36 things, right? I sent out market reports, I sent out postcards, I did social touches, right? Just like you recommend. And so Gary responds back after seeing the plan and says, well, what about the calls and conversations? No response. And so Gary says, you know what? You're not doing a 36 touch, right? You're missing the key piece, right? It's got to be a relationship. You can't just data dump on someone and suddenly think they trust you, right? Trust is an ongoing conversation, right? You're checking in to see where you're at. You want to know what's changed for their family, you know, with their job, have they changed their hobbies, right? Have their goals changed, right? And Gary says, you know, once you start following the system, call me back and we can talk about the results, right? So when we look at that 36 touch, it's really easy to build out, you know, all these impersonal touches, right? But there's got to be that conversation piece. This is how you stay top of mind with your potential sellers in your sphere. Because who else is going to be having a conversation with them, right? If they're surfing online, because we know sellers show up as a voyeur buyer before in the early stages of the process, they're going to get bombarded by different calls. If they're visiting like Zillow, they'll get assigned to a premier agent, or they'll get their information sold off on some of these third-party places. So it's our role to be there. And so let's talk about the power of smart plans here with this. Next slide, John. Right. So this is something that's in your tool belt, right? Plan ahead of time. What are those kind of touch points, right? Your goal is really going to be to show up for that lead generation time block you've set aside and planned for, and you're just going to run the play, right? Marty, you set 3 alarms this morning, right? John, do you set an alarm every morning, or does your phone remember your alarm?
Oh, phone remembers my alarm. I don't have to do that. If I had to remember every day, I would be a mess.
Right. Right. Marty, you're in new baby land, so I figured I wouldn't pose that question at you.
It was phone, Alexa, and my wife. Those were the 3 alarms.
All very effective. And so, right, you're already using technology to set up your day for success, right? Basically, a smart plan is a reminder, especially on like the quarterly phone call, to be like, hey, this person is important in your world. You said they were important. Now, like, keep your promise that they're important, right? And you got to set it up to where it's a winnable game, right? If you fall behind on these smart plan tasks, it feels like digging out of a hole, right? You're just going to get deeper and deeper with the shovel. And so you focus on one of these at a time, a handful of relationships per day, really pour in, and over time the dominoes will start falling. If you can scale this, if you have, well, here, let me reverse this. How many people on the call are having their busiest months ever?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Steven, big month? Awesome.
We're having a great month.
Gord raised his hand, right? And so we're looking at, man, look at all these people. Okay, how many of you have taken your foot off the lead generation pedal to service what's there? Right? Have you cut any time blocks away from your sphere to take care of current business? You got to have some little slice of that. You got to have something, right? So if you've cleared it, I want to challenge you to add 15 minutes back to your day where you're just reaching out to people by text if you don't have time for a 3 to 5 minute phone call, right? And so you also got to be a giver, right? You got to come from contribution and give the most accurate information you can. And lucky you, you don't have to prepare a market report for every single neighborhood we have, right? We know your sphere operates around your area, around the state. They may have a summer home in Michigan, who knows, right? So you're able to access that monthly neighborhood nurture, and you could do it as a bi-weekly neighborhood nurture, whatever your plan is, be consistent at it, right? If you can win today and then win again tomorrow and then do it again, awesome. In the conversations I'm having with agents across our region in Mid-American, the number one thing I keep running across is, their number one lead source is sphere and past clients. Their number one challenge is consistency at this, right? So don't count on your brain. That's what makes smart plans so smart, is they don't forget to fire.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot actually, Mike, in terms of just in general with a lot of things when it comes to command. People say, well, I just kind of do it in here, or I'm using some spreadsheets. And what's great, and that might be great as you're starting out because you don't maybe have as much business to manage, but it's not really scalable, right? As you start to grow and get busier, and then you look to bring on new people and hire new people, they can't jump inside. They don't have a direct connection inside of your brain. And sometimes a variety of sheets don't work, which is, why I think it's awesome having smart plans, having opportunities to really do the heavy lifting for you, right?
Right. And you know what? There's training around it already, right? No one's training to your spreadsheet. So you're going to have to be the one to create that.
Very true. Awesome. So now we're going to jump into building an online farm. So Marty is going to take over and show us how to really start to cultivate those relationships with people online. Because, let's face it, and I think this is really timely too, is the command part of it. We're in a time where we have to do a lot of things remotely.
John, I think you froze there for a second, but I'll go ahead and take over there. So my name is Marty Miller. For those of you that don't know me, regional tech trainer here in South Texas. I've been with Keller Williams for 7 years. Started off, as many of you are, as an independent agent. Joined a team. I was a buyer's agent, a listing agent, VP of sales and expansion, and ultimately became the president of that team. Worked in active production real estate on that team for about 5 years. I started as a productivity coach for about 14 months. After that, worked with Lance and Karina Loken at their market center, the amazing team leader, Randy Olive. And then obviously as the first of the year became the regional tech trainer. So my preference in working production has always been with sellers. And it's become interesting nowadays where a lot of things are shifting. COVID has brought on a lot of, shifts from, hey, what we do in person, we're now going to need to do online. And so even before COVID, a lot of this was kind of still incubating in my mind, and what could we use command to do? And I think the building of an online farm has become even more important as we move into kind of what our new normal is with all the activities that are happening online. So let's talk about farming in general to start off with. John, if you'll head to the next slide. In the chat, guys, let's say 1, 2, 3. 1, I know what a farm is. 2, I actually have a farm. 3, I have a producing farm. 1, I know what it is. 2, I have one. 3, it's actually producing. Throw it in the chat there. So what is farming and what does it mean to have a farm? So it looks like a lot of people may already know this. Some of you have them and some of them are producing, but I see a lot more 1s than 3s. 1.2, I really appreciate that, right? So let's talk about farming. First of all, farming is an area that you have selected where your goal is or has become that you are the guy or gal, the go-to expert, right? When someone that lives in that neighborhood or area thinks about going to sell their house, the first realtor they think of is you. That's your farm. So we're all great at real estate, and I think all of us have a large area that we would certainly service, but your farm is a small focus group, a small focus area that you really want to become the realtor of choice in that area. So the first thing you want to do, if you don't know what a farm is or you haven't selected a farm, is choose a neighborhood, maybe 2. We're not talking about choosing the city of Houston as my farm, right? I mean, I can drive for 2 hours in Houston and still be in Houston, right? So that's too major of a farm. We want to do small areas, right? So 1 or 2 neighborhoods, preferably neighborhoods that you really know. So ones that you live in, maybe that you have lived in the past, maybe neighborhoods you grew up in. Ideally, they are in close proximity to where you live. Reason being is you're going to spend time in that farm, both digitally and hopefully here in the near future, you know, personally as well. So if you're choosing a farm that's on the other side of town, maybe that doesn't make the most sense because you want to be a key figure both visibly and online in that farm. The next thing with choosing a farm, you want to make sure that that price point makes sense, right? We are going to invest some capital in becoming the realtor of choice in that actual neighborhood. And so it's important that the average price point is going to provide for GCI that's worth the effort that it takes to build up that farm. So will the labor of your efforts actually be worth it? Making sure that when you think about, okay, if I can become the realtor of choice in this neighborhood, I could probably take 10 to 20% of the listings. How much GCI would that produce? And that goes into our next point. How many of you know the turnover rate in your farm, right? If you know the turnover rate in your farm right now, say, I do. If you don't, that's okay, say, I don't. But what is the turnover rate? The turnover rate, basically, you're gonna do an MLS search and you're gonna calculate how many homes sold in the past 12 months in this neighborhood. And then you're going to figure out a way, whether that's through your MLS, tax records, whatever it may be, to determine how many houses are actually in this neighborhood, right? So if you choose a neighborhood, you're like, I'm going to become the local expert, the neighborhood realtor of choice in this neighborhood, and only 1 or 2 homes are selling a year in that neighborhood, what's the point? Right? Even if you got both of those listings, okay, well, great, that got you 2 listings. I don't think anyone wakes up in the morning and says, my 12-month goal today is to take 2 listings, right? So make sure that you are calculating what that turnover rate is. How many listings are being sold versus how many homes are sold in the neighborhood. You're looking to be at 8 to 10% or better, meaning that homes are turning, right? Every 10 years, the entire neighborhood, or every 8 years, the entire neighborhood is turned over. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that. How established is it? What's the average age of the people that are moving in? If you're moving into a retirement community, well, it depends on what age range you are in that retirement community, but a lot of people may be living in that home for the next 20, 30, 40 years, right? My parents have openly said, we don't plan on selling this house ever. It will be y'all's to sell at some point. So you got to make sure that you're calculating the turnover rate efficiently. John,
hey, real quick, a good point about that, Marty, too. I love that you talk about going into the MLS and determining that percentage. Right. Because sometimes we think a neighborhood might be good because it's a big neighborhood, so we figure there's a lot of homes, and we maybe dismiss a smaller neighborhood. I lived in a town in the state of Washington for a while called Anacortes, and high in vacation, only about 15,000 people lived in the town, but it was a high place for second homes and vacation homes. And there was a naval air station about 30 miles away, which a lot of the officers lived there. So because of the military and because of the vacation home part of it, the turnover rate there was just massive despite being small. So don't automatically discount a small neighborhood. You got to look at some other factors.
Absolutely. And I've had some people say, well, you should probably figure out if there's already somebody farming that neighborhood. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. If somebody's already farming that neighborhood, good. That means at least one other person thought it was worth farming. So that should probably pique your interest as compared to not, right? So why are they farming this neighborhood? And oftentimes, I'll tell you, I've seen many shifts with the agent of choice in neighborhoods easily get knocked off, because when someone becomes that neighborhood realtor of choice, if they're not constantly staying on it, it's very easy to knock them off and become the new, right? The new realtor of choice for that neighborhood. John, let's skip to the next slide. So what do we do when we find that farm? All right, so the next goal is to actually start farming for leads and contacts in that farm, in one of those two neighborhoods. Now, ideally, you have a listing or maybe two or multiple in that neighborhood. And yet if you don't, go find listings in that neighborhood. Preferably some that are from your brokerage where the agents would allow you to run ads in those neighborhoods. If there are no listings in the neighborhood that are realtors in your market center, we'll figure out ads that you could run, right? There are 6 active listings in Fawn Lake Pine Lakes. To get a list of all the active homes in Fawn Lake Pine Lakes, click here, right? Am I advertising any one listing at that point? No, right? So I have permission to advertise all those listings because I haven't been specific about any one listing. Now, obviously check with your MLS and your offices, but I think there are definitely ways to start running ads on listings in the neighborhood. Create social posts. Guys, it doesn't all have to be paid. Are you creating social posts featuring things that are happening in that neighborhood? Here's a great way to get a ton of people, right, to sign up for and become a contact in your database. Guys, do a giveaway. I just saw one a couple of days ago and I loved it. It's from Wendy Papazan and the Papazan team. And they literally talked about missing the theaters, missing your movie night. Papazan Properties Group was bringing movie night to you. And they literally are doing a giveaway where they're giving away a projector, a projection screen. I think it's like a 6-pack of Dr. Pepper and as much popcorn as you can eat, something along those lines. And so they're having people actually sign up for that giveaway. Well, guys, guess what's happening when people are signing up for that giveaway? They're getting phone numbers, they're getting email addresses, they're getting names. Take it one step further. The prize will be hand delivered to your home. So what do you have to provide at that point? Throw it in the chat if you just made the connection. If I'm going to deliver the prize to your house, what do you have to provide me?
Your home address.
Your home address. You better believe it, right? So a lot of times we're using landing pages in Command and they're fantastic, the lead capture form or using the Facebook lead gen form. But guys, don't be afraid to get creative and actually have your own Google form where that Google form becomes your landing page that you direct them to. Guys, people in Texas, they'll do backflips for a Yeti cooler, right? And some people may say, well, hey, that's a lie. Those Yetis are expensive. Well, if I give away a $500 Yeti and I get 1,000 people to sign up for that giveaway, how much did those leads just cost me?
That's 50 cents a lead, Marty.
That's where I go, Mike, the mathematician, right? 50 cents a lead. And we get excited about $3 leads in Command. So think about it. There are some ways to actually create contacts by doing a giveaway along those lines. So you're doing social posts. You've got a picture of yourself holding the Yeti or the projection screen or whatever it is that you're going to give away, right? Maybe it's, you know, I'd say sporting tickets if football ever comes back, right? The Texans are huge down here. Maybe we're giving away tickets, something along those lines. And then I'm running additional ads featuring that giveaway. Host virtual open houses. But guys, don't just host them where anyone can get access. Go find the hottest property in your market center, the one that just went live that's sure to have people wanting to see it, and offer to do a virtual open house for that agent. But then have people, they have to register to get the link, right? Because when they register, what happens? What do we get? Name, phone number, email address. Guys, I wanted to show you there's different options to capturing contact information. It doesn't have to just be the Facebook ad using the Facebook lead gen form. Now that is certainly productive, don't get me wrong, but there's also a variety of different ways where we can capture contacts information. The ultimate goal, get as many names, emails, and phone numbers as possible. However, when I'm doing those ads to give away the Yeti, I'm focusing on, in my case, Katy, Texas, 15 miles around Katy, Texas. So who is seeing that ad? Only people that live in Katy, Texas. right? So what happens? I want sellers in Katy, Texas. Well, they're going to start giving me their information. When I'm doing virtual open houses, I'm doing virtual open houses in those neighborhoods I want to farm. When I'm advertising listings, I'm doing them in those neighborhoods I want to farm. What's going to start happening when I'm advertising listings and people are signing up? Those become potential buyers, right? Which obviously we know if they're interested in buying in that neighborhood, they might be a seller. So again, we're creating seller leads from our buyer leads as well. John, let's head to the next slide. Now I've got all of these leads and contacts in my database. What do I want to do? So recently there was a national live stream where we talked about retargeting. I wanted to make sure you guys understood when someone says you can retarget in command, let's be real clear about that. Some of you know Facebook well, and you know the retargeting options that are in Facebook. We can't quite do that yet in command. However, you can retarget the people that are in your command database. And how would I do that? The first thing that you want to make sure that you do is the leads that are coming into your database, you want to make sure that you unmark them as a lead. The reason being is when you go to do some of these other targeting, retargeting things, you can't actually target a lead. You have to target a contact. Okay, so that's key number one, unmark them as a lead. Now, I would still make sure you are tagging them. If you joined me for the 66-day challenge, when I was running ads in the first couple of weeks, every single one of those leads that came in, first of all, they get a tag that says Facebook ad lead. Then they get a tag that says the neighborhood that they came from. Again, remember, I'm creating an online farm. I want to make sure all the contacts in my database that are in that farm are easily tagged so that I can filter for them later. Now, what am I going to do? Well, now I'm going to start running ads targeting those leads. And I think John's going to actually show us this at the end of the class. How do I run a campaign and use custom targeting, target my database? There's two ways to target your database, either by tag or by neighborhood. So if I have put a tag for all of the people that have come in off of my listing ads or my neighborhood posts or my giveaways for Bridgeland or Cinco Ranch or whatever that may be, whatever neighborhood I'm farming, well, now I'm starting to do just sold ads, just listed ads, those types of things. Wow, looks like every time I turn around, Marty's got a new listing. Guys, here's the deal. In Houston, we have the right to, if we get permission from the agent, our MLS will actually let us present a listing. So you can actually go to HAR and it'll say presented courtesy of me. Here's the reality, guys. When someone, the average public looks at that, what do they think when it says presented by Marty Miller? Who do they think, whose listing do they think that is?
They think it's Marty.
They think it's mine. And perception is reality. So if you're talking about check out the newest listing in Bridgeland, even if it's not your listing, but you have permission to advertise it, well, the public probably begins to think every time a new listing comes out, Marty's talking about it. But what they're really thinking is every time a new listing comes out, Marty has that listing. So what are we doing? Slowly but surely, you're becoming that neighborhood realtor of choice. Now, we talked about the giveaway. Why would I want their home address? Well, think about retargeting using postcards. As we can use a postcard real mailer campaign within command, and we can actually target our database. So all of the people that I have a tag for Cinco Ranch, I did a giveaway in Katy, I have all of those addresses. Well, what am I going to send them now? First of all, I'm going to send them a postcard, excuse me, that says, thanks for registering, right? And then I'm going to send them a postcard that says, just listed. And then a postcard that says, just sold. Maybe it's a postcard that says, check out the newest farmer's market. And then, guys, what's happening? It's August. I know in Houston, we're like, fall will never be here. It's coming, trust me. And what happens during the fall? You got all of the markets, right? The gift market, the holiday market, the Halloween market, right? All the different ones. Start sending out additional materials that are advertising what's happening in your neighborhood. Because when that happens, what happens? You start becoming that local real estate agent. So the goal is to continue to not only feed your farm, but cultivate the farm as well. So adding more contacts and then cultivating the ones that you have as well. Last slide, John. Basically, once you have all of those contacts, what are you going to do? Well, ultimately, you're going to get the chance to go on an appointment, a listing appointment in that neighborhood. Guys, don't be afraid to bring your laptop and show them the list of potential buyers you have in their neighborhood. When you pull up your command and you do a filter for buyer tag, Bridgeland, right? And then you have all of those contacts. Don't be afraid to sit there and scroll while you're sitting in a listing appointment and say, I'm sure the last agent showed you all of the buyers that they have in this neighborhood, right? And sit there and be quiet.
Right. And then
Because ultimately the
forcing them
agent is going to
to-
say, or the seller is going to say, no, he didn't, or no, he didn't. Oh, so you mean they don't have a curated list of potential buyers already in this neighborhood? That's a shame. And then you move on, right? Small tree, throw a little shade and let them know then, look, this is what I have. I've been working hard to cultivate buyers in this neighborhood. Here they all are. Show the success of your ads. Let them know that part of your marketing strategy is to run additional ads for their seller, right? Their listing as well, and show them the success that you're having. Now, I'm going to talk real briefly about the difference between landing page and lead gen form. Now, lead gen form, the most popular way to run a Facebook ad. That's how we get the leads. They fill out the form, the lead comes into my command, fantastic. And yet, when you're using a lead gen form, know that Facebook's algorithm is attempting to put that ad in front of people who are more likely to click on it. Raise your hand if you know which Disney princess you are. Okay, you are the one that's going to get the ad in front of you because you've clicked on or interacted with something in Facebook before, so you are more than likely to see that ad. The reason I'm telling you this is when you look at impression count, right? What's an impression? Someone that actually sees your ad. When you use the Facebook lead gen form, your impression count is significantly lower than when you use the landing page option. Why is that? When you say, I want to use the landing page option, you're telling Facebook, I don't really care who sees it. I just want as many people to see it as possible to get them to my landing page. Now, caveat, when you use the landing page, you're not creating leads within Facebook, right? They would have to fill out something on your landing page to get into command or to submit your information. But when I've done A/B testing, I've seen anywhere from 14 to 20 times the number of impressions when you use the landing page. So know that sometimes sellers want to see not only that you're generating leads on their home, but sometimes they're like, I don't care if you create 1 lead or 50 leads. I just want someone to buy the house. Well, let me show you as well. I'm running ads for impressions. Let me show you this ad that got 20,000 people to see your house. It's a great time when it comes time for that price reduction script, you know, the one we never want to have because we know they're probably going to say, well, it's perfectly priced. You just need to work harder. Yeah, right. Exactly. Let me show you how perfectly priced it is. 20,000 people saw the ad and we still don't have an offer. Ready to reduce the price? So there are some strategies around that as well of using a landing page ad to get more impressions. I think there's a balance. I think we obviously want the leads. Definitely think if you have to decide between the two and you only have $50 to spend on an ad today, go with the lead gen form route. But don't rule out landing pages. Just know what the difference is. If your landing page has a strong call to action on it as well, right? Think about that Google form where you're doing the giveaway. Well, then you could send them to that landing page. And then if you are doing those mailers, right? You're sending out real mailer postcards. Make sure you have some sent to your office. Typically, there's a box that you can check on the campaign to send me a copy. Know that Real Mailers does not have your personal address. Did you ever put it in when you built out that campaign? Think about it. Did you ever actually type in your address? No. So make sure that you understand that that postcard is going to come to your office. And here's the reality. The person working the mail at your office probably gets 50 of those a day, right? Just BS postcards. Hey, you want to get into real estate? Hey, we got a new blah, 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 blah. It's probably a good idea to talk to that person that handles the mail at your office and let them know, hey, I'm expecting a postcard within the next 3 to 5 days. It'll have my name on it. It'll have a face. Maybe even print a screenshot of what it looks like from Real Mailers and give it to him or her and say, I just need a copy of this. Can you keep your eyes out for it? That way they make sure that they look for it and put it in your box so that you can then show your sellers, here's an example of the postcards that I send out, right? So they get an idea of what the feel is, what the look is, you know, and you can say, depending on your budget, I'll send out these postcards to all of my buyers in the area that you got their address from your giveaway, or just randomly, not randomly, but targeting the 200 closest homes. So the goal is, one, figure out your farm, right? Which neighborhood or neighborhoods am I going to attack? Two, all right, how am I going to get more visibility in those neighborhoods? I'm running ads on listings in those neighborhoods. Every time something happens in that neighborhood, I'm doing a social post. Is it a giveaway? Is it a farmer's market? Is it our neighborhood just changed our trash schedule, right? That doesn't sound like a sexy ad to run, but how many times have you missed the trash delivery? And Katie, we get it once a week. Like if I miss trash delivery because the trash can goes out on the wrong day, that's a whole nother week of a full trash can. Now, it doesn't sound like you're going to get a lot of leads, but you start to become the realtor. Hey, I don't know if you saw, but Marty posted earlier that our trash schedule changed. Did you know? No, I didn't know. Well, thank God for Marty, right? So I start to become, again, the realtor of choice. So what kind of post, what kind of ads, what kind of strategies can I use to become the person they think about when it comes to real estate and Fawn Lake, Pine Lakes? And then start getting those neighborhood addresses, get those contact information, and retarget them through your command campaigns. That's how you create a digital farm. That's how you get more visibility. Guys, get out there and do it. And please, I know John, Mike, and I all want to see the success that you're having. So feel free to reach back out and say, hey, I did what you said and here were the results. Good, bad, ugly, or otherwise. And I'm praying it's all good, but we all know bad, ugly, and otherwise happen every now and then. Love to hear about it and move forward. So John, you want to take us into some demos and kind of wrap us up and land the plane?
Sure. That sounds great. I really love all this, Marty. Especially, I like the point that you bring out about the landing page versus the lead gen form, because especially as newer agents, we all want that now business. Sellers is very much a long game, and that's why a lot of agents struggle with this business sometimes, is because they want the here and now, not the long game. And I like the landing page part of it because, again, it's not going to necessarily get me leads. However, when I get to the closing table and I can show them the ads and how much activity I get on the ads that I run with the impressions, that's huge, right? And that's what the whole session's really about today, is kind of finding some of those fine points that you can use within inside of Command to, when you're at that closing table, you have like validation and proof to the seller that this is why you should use me. And that was an aha for me as well too. I really love that part of it.
And it's really visibility, right? Why do people buy a billboard? Raise your hand if you ever called the phone number off a billboard. And yet, right, how many times have you driven by a billboard? I drive all over South Texas. If I ever got in an 18-wheeler accident, God forbid, I would know who to call, because I see that guy with the long dreads. He looks like maybe, I don't know how he got to be an attorney, but he's probably a really good attorney. But I would know who to call because I see his billboard every other mile when I'm driving in South Texas, right? So it's about visibility, knowing who to call, knowing when the time comes. Now, I'm probably not going to drive around to find his phone number off his billboard. I would just go Google him. But the thought to Google him came from the fact that I saw his billboard. So it's about visibility.
Right. And I thought you hit the nail on the head for sure with the A/B testing, right? For every listing you have, you should be running 2 ads. One to generate leads, one to generate impressions, so people get an understanding and see you beyond that.
Absolutely. Like 800 impressions isn't sexy. Right now, 25 leads, that's sexy. Like the seller is excited about that. But in reality, 25 leads that don't sell the house, they don't care. But when you show them, hey, I got 20,000 impressions, they're excited about that as well.
And it goes to the point of what you're saying. Hey, people are seeing the house. They don't, they're not putting an offer on, and that validates that price reduction too. So I really love that part of it. So dropping some good bombs there as well. So, what I've gathered so far in this whole thing, Mike talking about really the importance of the sphere, and Marty talking about farming and stuff. This is really going back to the MREA, and kind of like that first slide, that really Command just is the MREA. It just helps us run that model better. And it helps us stay in emotional proximity with the people that are in our database. And that's huge. Jason Abrams says the best time to reach out to a lead is the day after they buy a house. And most people are really confused by that, because it's like, what do you mean? They just literally bought a house yesterday. I can't work that. But the day after they buy that house, nobody's contacting that person, including their own agent, right? So that's the perfect time to reach out to them and to start building that, again, emotional proximity and cultivating that farm, so that in the next 3 to 7 to 10 years, whenever they want to buy or sell or refer real estate out to people, again, you're that agent of choice that Marty and Mike have been describing. So I think that's really huge. And one really cool thing about this as well too, in terms of reinvigorating your farm, that a lot of people miss sometimes, is one of our best lead sources is people who buy our listings, right? Because we know that that NAR stat says 70% of real estate, or 87% of buyers say that they would use their agent again, but only like 11 or 12% do. And the reason is because their agents don't contact them again. So when I sell a house, I'm making sure that I get the contact information of that buyer, because once that fiduciary relationship is over at the close of escrow, that buyer, I'm adopting that person, right? And doing some of these things like Marty's talking about is going to keep that farm really intact for you as well too. So let's go in and show you how to start to lead generate with Command as well. So we're going to jump into ads, and the ads are going to be a little bit different than maybe some of the things you guys have been seeing on Facebook, because most of those again are targeted at getting buyers. We're going to jump in to show you guys how you can do some of this stuff to get seller leads. So basically, I'm going to share my screen here again. Make sure that we got that set up. Go into Command, and we'll show you how to set that ad up. So we're just going to start out. One of the things that I want to point out is that we're going to start in contacts real quick. And there's two ways that we can, Marty described a little bit about what I'm going to show you guys, targeting your database rather than just a general ad. And so there's two ways that we can really target our people. We can target them by neighborhood, and then we can also target them by tag. So if you have I'm going to just put myself in, for example. So if I go to myself, you can see that my neighborhood is Ripon West. And so if I had the addresses, and hopefully you guys have the addresses of all the people that are in your database, but if I have the addresses, then I have their neighborhood already tagged in here. So I can basically make sure that when I'm running an ad, because I'm taking a new listing or somebody's taken a new listing that I have permission to advertise in Ripon West, I'm going to make sure that something like this goes out to all of those people that are in that primary neighborhood. Now, in addition, if you don't have their specific address, but you want to tag them, because maybe you don't know that you met them, you got their contact information, maybe for some reason you didn't get their specific address, but you know that they live in Ripon West, you can create a tag, and then you can set that ad up based on tag as well too. So I just wanted to point that out before we get started. Best case scenario, make sure that you have their neighborhood in there. If not, tag the people that you want to tag so that you can make sure that those people get that ad. So what we do next is we go into campaigns. And I already kind of created one, so I'm going to go back to that, but I'm going to show you how you can set this up really quick for a generating listing. So we're going to hit create new campaign in the top right corner. And then we're going to hit social ad if you have not done this before. I know a lot of you guys have. And actually just in the chat box so we can get some activity and make this interactive, put a yes if you have actually ran a Facebook ad before in Command, and a no if you have not. So we can kind of get an idea of what you guys have been doing with this. So I'm going to just say, neighborhood I live in is Poppyfield Estates. So I'm going to title that, I want to attract listings. Now, one of the things that the system used to do is that these really were just categories. It didn't really do a whole lot in terms of, if I clicked attract talent and I wanted to really advertise a listing or attract a listing, it didn't really matter. This was just for us as a way to make sure that we can categorize it. And also Keller Williams could then categorize what kind of ads you were running. Now they've changed that a little bit though, is that depending on which one of these things that you select, the system will actually create word tracks for you if you don't know how to write your own ad, and give you some of the terminology that you might want to use in running that particular ad. So especially if you're not really good at writing ad copy, this is make sure that you're putting in the specific purpose for what you want to do here. So I'm going to click attract listings, and then we're going to go and click on Facebook. So then I'm going to hit set up campaign. Now you notice normally it asks me to add a listing in there. This one didn't, because I'm not necessarily advertising a listing. I could put a listing to this if I wanted to. I could say, hey, this house sold in 3 days. Learn how I could sell your house just as fast for more money than what we list for. I'm not going to do that in this particular case. As you can see here, They already plug in some copy for us. If we want to write something different, we can. If we don't like this, we can hit shuffle, and it gives us a couple different options on things that we can do. If we like this particular one, we can hit use suggestion, and I'm going to just click that so you can see what that looks like. And then we can use the suggestion and just move on. Now, one of the things that our primary purpose, and people always think, hey, I'm running a Facebook ad to get leads. That's my goal, right? And that's not really the primary goal when you run a Facebook ad. The primary goal when you run a Facebook ad is to get somebody to stop scrolling, right? And because if I scroll past your ad because I see too much text and I don't see good pictures or graphics, you're not going to ever get a lead if you don't get them to stop the scroll. And so your primary goal really here should be, what could I do to attract attention to get people to not swipe down and to just get them to look at this? Because if I get them to look at this, then I got an opportunity. If I don't, then I don't. So make sure that these things aren't too wordy. Throw some emojis in there so that you can get some pictures, because pictures people associate, you know, when they see just word tracks, sometimes nothing stands out, so they keep going. So Facebook's actually done studies to show that people respond better to ads when you throw some little images and emojis in there to make it so that people visually say, hey, what's that? And they stop. So again, I'm not going to do that here right now because I'm going to go back into an example that I created before the class to show you what a finished one looks like, just for the sake of speed. And then put a catchy headline in there. If you don't know what to do, again, you can shuffle through and you can use a suggestion. And then the description is kind of the same thing. You can describe what's going to happen if they click your link. If you don't know what to say, just use the suggestions, and you could shuffle through as well there too, and then click that. Once you're done with that, you just hit save the ad text. And then we go to the ad media. We're going to add images that we want to. And again, with something like trying to get sellers, it doesn't necessarily always have to be a house. It could be a house in the neighborhood. It could be a landmark in the neighborhood that you show there. It could be something that's just visually I like stuff that just is going to visually make somebody go, oh, what the heck is that? So it gets them to stop. And I'll show you an example of that in a second. So once you get your ad media set up, you can hit save there. And then you can go into configure the Facebook ad. You're going to tie it to your business page. And then, as Marty said, we can either use the Facebook lead gen form or we can use a site or a landing page. For something like this, I'm going to probably use the Facebook lead gen form because this one's not something I'm going to necessarily show my sellers here. I'm trying to lead generate for listings here. I'm going to use this. And the reason I'm going to use this is kind of as Marty alluded to. Facebook, people like when they're on Facebook and you're trying to capture their information, they don't necessarily want to be redirected to a different page. They like to stay on Facebook. And so by doing this or using the Facebook lead gen form, they stay on Facebook, the lead gen form pops up. It's easy for them to fill out without ever leaving Facebook. And they're more likely to respond to that and give their actual information, which is why that's so good, right? Under the call to action buttons, you have a couple options: learn more, sign up, apply now. I like learn more just because of the fact that I don't know this person, it's an unmet. And if getting them to sign up or apply now, or using that terminology, sounds committal. Where learn more is, hey, you piqued my interest, I want to learn a little bit more, I'll click that. I know personally I'm less likely to click something that says sign up or apply now. Learn more, I'll do all day long, right? And then after that, we can then direct them where we want them to go. We can set up a landing page to direct them there. If we want to direct them to our website, we can direct them there. If we have a capture page, if we have, say, like a CMA form, Marty and Mike, I think, both alluded to the fact that you can build out a Google form to request information about a CMA. That's what I would probably build out and do for something like this, because what I'm going to do with the ad is I'm going to promise them to find out what their home value is worth. And so I'll go to Google Forms and I'll build out the information that I want so that I can do a really good CMA for them and then be able to send that out. So then I can take that Google Form link and then plug that link inside of here, and then that'll redirect them after they leave their information to that form. And what's great about that is I don't even really care if they fill out the form, because if they get to the form and they say, hey, this is too much information for me, I don't want to do it, and they click out of it, it doesn't matter. They filled out the Facebook lead gen form, and now I got their information already, so I can still follow up with that person even if they decide not to fill out that form there, which is really key, I think, right? So we choose a landing page or our form there. And then we can do our ad targeting. This is what Marty was talking about with targeting my database. Most people are just doing a custom audience and they're picking an area. So I'm going to say Ripon, California, because that's where I'm at. And then 20-mile radius or whatever, right? So I'm going to do that still, right? Because I want to be able to potentially get anybody that I haven't met here. But I want to go back and target the people who are in my database, who are in that farm that I built, to let them know that I'm selling houses and that I'm doing business, and to try to capture that information from them as well. So when I click target database, what that now does is I can select from an audience that's already been created, or I can create a new audience. So I'm going to just click create new audience here. And then I can say, hey, this is Ripon West, because this is kind of the general area that I live in. And that's how Nextdoor basically does this. And so I can target again by tags if I want to do a tag that I've done, or I can target by neighborhoods, and then I can select the neighborhood. So I can start typing Ripon West if I could type right. So now it finds Ripon West. So that's going to then now target everybody in my database that lives in that neighborhood. Again, we've been talking about this forever, not just Mike, Marty, and myself, but the importance of reaching out to the people in your database, knowing where they live so that we can get their neighborhoods inside a command is key. This is going to allow us now that when we run this ad, and I don't have any contacts in there right now, but when we run this ad, now everybody in Ripon West is going to be able to go out there and get that, be able to see that on Facebook if their emails are tied to their Facebook accounts, right? So that's really, really cool and key. And then the last thing is we could do expert targeting. And then under the expert targeting, we could put a list of interests that they might have, which I'll give you an example of that when I go out of here and show you the one that I already set up. And so basically, it's going to be things like if somebody has showed an interest or liked or visited a page on Zillow because they're interested in house stuff, right? That's going to help direct or funnel that ad to those particular people. So the more that we put a kind of finely high-tuned list of interests that relate to house selling back to this, it's going to give us better opportunity to get those in the right hands of people. So, and then we just set up our budget and duration on how long we want it to run, and then we can publish campaign and get it to go. Like I said, I just want to do a quick walkthrough, and I'm going to show you one that I had started to set up here already, so you can see a little bit more about what the ad looks like, and then we'll get stuff wrapped up because I know that we're getting close to the time to end the session. So just so you can see kind of more what a finished one looks like. Under the ad text, I put, want to know what your home is worth in this hot Ripon West sellers market, or wondering if the market will start to cool off. Find out what your home is worth today by clicking learn more. And so I'm basically, again, kind of throwing some emojis in there so it visually creates more of a stunning piece. Has the little dollar sign, and I'm directing them what they need, what action they need to do, right? And then the headline is compelling. Are your property or values going up or down in Ripon West? And then it tells them, hey, what's going to happen if you click that link? Under the ad media, I put a house that's slanted because again, it's
that stops the scroll.
So hey, what's going on with that house? And you could do one that's up or down. And so then they read that and they say, hey, yeah, I want to know what my home value is worth. And then under the configure the ad stuff, just to show you again, I forgot to put the business page there. But basically under the ad targeting, we got the target the database, we target the custom audience, and then here are some of the expert targeting that for interests that I put in there. And I'll paste all these into the chat box when we're done so you guys can have those as well too and copy them. But basically Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, mortgage insurance, mortgage loans, mortgage calculator, house hunting, homes, for sale by owner, rent.com, real estate investing, custom home. Those are all things that a seller might potentially be looking at inside of Facebook when they're getting ready to sell a house. And so now anybody that has shown interest or liked things that pertain to that, the ad's going to have a higher probability of going to those particular people. And what's really awesome about that is now, especially using the target my database, if I am hitting people that I know in a certain area and they like these things and they respond to that ad, I got a pretty good solid seller lead there, right? And then we just, again, set the budget and duration, and then we're set up to go with that particular thing. Anything that you guys, that I might have missed or that you'd like to add to that, Mike or Marty?
I should have mentioned it, and John, you did a good job of making sure that when you do build out that custom audience of contacts in your database, one, you're going to need a minimum of 100 contacts. However, it needs to be 100 contacts whose email address that you have, that email address is the email address that they use to log into Facebook. So for example, I have over 800 Keller Williams agents. If I went to set up a Facebook ad targeting all of you guys as Keller Williams agents, it would most likely fail, because raise your hand if you use your @kw.com email address to log into Facebook, right? No one's doing that. And so that's why the audience would not produce. But the great thing is, typically when you're running these Facebook ads, capturing the lead gen form information, it auto-populates with the email that they are using for Facebook. And so unless they go in and manually change that email address, you are most likely capturing the email that they already use to log into Facebook. So it is a great way to have a higher likelihood of having contacts in your database with emails that are already associated with Facebook.
Yeah. And then for everybody, I just put in the chat box some of the typical interests that you guys might want to look at putting in for your Facebook ads as well. And then again, some of the ones I would take out depending on if you're looking at targeting buyers or sellers. Like for example, first-time home buyer grant, I might take that interest out because that's not going to necessarily probably attract a seller. But those are ones that you could use for real estate specific.
Yeah, you want to, whenever you're targeting your ad, you want to like put yourself in the shoes of what would this person be behaving like online, right? What are they looking, what do you think a seller would look at, right? And so your targets have to match that. Great point, John.
Yeah, a couple quick questions that had popped up. Somebody asked, hey, is that image from Ripon West? That image was not from Ripon West. Just look for a copy-free image that you could put in there. It doesn't really matter what location it's from. Again, all I want is I want them to stop. And that's a picture that will get them to stop.
I mean,
right?
that turned my head. I was like, huh?
Yeah.
And then Chase asked, is there a way to save interest lists so you don't have to repopulate those every time? What I basically do is I'll create an ad that I create as a template, and then I won't basically finish it. And then every time that I want to do a new one, I'll just copy that with the stuff that I want to pre-populate and then fill in the new stuff. So that's the way that you can do that.
Ooh, that's sneaky. I like that one. That's
genius, John. I've never even thought about doing that. I'm the guy putting in all 15 interests every stinking time. I never thought about creating a template, and then you basically just click on the 3 dots, duplicate and customize, and then you just make the ad from there and run it from there. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep.
John, you blew my mind, John. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. All right, so some resources that we wanted to leave you guys with as well too. There's some really great resources on KW. So KWU has some great on-demand videos so that you can see a lot of the things that we talked about here. Every week they do sessions. If you miss those live sessions, that link is going to be where they are all housed as well there. So I will make sure that, I didn't mean to go click that. I'll put the links in the chat box when we're finished here. And then Marty, I'll let you take them through the next 3 because you're the one that put those in. So I want to make sure that they get explained a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just talked about when creating your virtual farm that it's important that you're using tags, because tags is how you're going to later retarget them with your Facebook ad or your mailer campaign. So just a quick and easy way. Most people by this point know how to do it, but if you've never added a custom tag to a contact or leading command, that's article number 2. Article number 3 is how to add a neighborhood, because that's the other option for retargeting, is I can retarget by custom tags, or I can retarget by utilizing the neighborhood I've assigned them to. And then finally, number 4 is how you actually go through that process of targeting your database using campaigns in a Facebook ad. So all 3 of those articles, very helpful. They all have screenshots. Some of them even have little GIFs showing you where to click and what to do. So yeah, it's a great source. John, I've had several questions that I've seen in the chat, both private and public, about the recording. We are recording this and it'll be sent out after the fact. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is being recorded. I never publicize the fact that I record my stuff ahead of time just because I want people to show up to the live class, right?
Sure.
So
it's just good marketing.
we are recording this, and we'll make sure that this gets put out. I'll post the recording to this, or the link to the recording to this, to the KW Command page inside of Facebook.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna try and get it from John and put it on my YouTube channel because, you know, that's just what I do. So you can look there as well.
Yep. Yep, well, for sure. And then the last one is, there's a really great resource, which I'll show you guys in a second, on farming with Nextdoor. And so it talks a lot about what Marty had talked about, just utilizing the Nextdoor platform to be able to engage with people as well. So you can do that, hey, through Facebook, and do Nextdoor. So, I mean, if you really want to own a place, you should be doing it from multiple angles. And I think that this is an amazing resource. Not a lot of people knew that this happened, right? So I'll show you that in just a second. One of the questions that got asked too is, will we share the slides with you guys? So I will share the slides. I'm going to post it in the KW Command Facebook page, and after the session's over. One thing that always happens though, so I just want to make sure this is clear, is that do not request permission to edit when you guys get the link to this, because what's going to happen is if I let you do that and you change things, it's going to change the original copy, and I don't want to have the original copy changed. In order for you to be able to get this, if you want to customize it and use it for whatever you want to use it for, you need to basically copy the one that I give you, and then when you copy the one that I give you, then that's going to allow you to edit the copy. I will not give editing rights to anybody on the original. You have to, I'll give you access to the original, and then you can copy the original. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, we're over time, so we're just a couple of quick next steps. So to follow up on what Mike and Marty and myself said, make sure that you set up a smart plan to nurture your Mets. Begin by building your online farm, and then run campaigns to target those seller leads from the people that you do get their email addresses from and that you got their information from. Okay. And then finally, any questions or ahas, I'll stick around for a little bit. You guys are free to hop off. Again, the session, we'll get the video into KW Command. I know Marty's going to post it on his YouTube channel. I'm going to post it on the T3 YouTube channel as well too. I'll get the slides up to KW Command as well in view only mode. And Marty, Mike, anything you guys want to add? Any questions that you guys want to ask before we head out of here?
You know, I just want to say thank you guys for joining in. I think I saw over like 250 at one point. That
was higher.
Yeah, thanks guys for being a part of this. And as always, really appreciate you guys leaning in, learning more about Command. I'm going to ask a favor. When you have success, and there's keyword choice there, when you have success with what you're doing in Command, go post it. And here's the reason why, right? Small soapbox. I think we sometimes see a lot of negativity on Facebook when things aren't going the way we want them to do it. When they are going the way to do it, post that too. It's my only ask, right? Went on, had huge success with whatever I was doing, and here's the success. Because I think as a newer agent, if I get on Facebook and all I see is negativity, maybe I get concerned about Command. And I don't want our new agents having that concern. So feel free to ask the questions when things don't work well, but also tell the success stories when they do. It's my only favor, my only request.
That's awesome. And yeah. Mike, any parting shots?
You know, buyers are built on sales, right? And you can only build a business with sellers, right? It feels backwards when you look at it in English, but then again, I park my driveway and drive in my parkway.
Yeah. I love both of those things. And again, as Marty said, sometimes we hear a lot of some of the things that we focus sometimes on the things that don't quite work. And Command, you know, we're building out this platform and stuff's getting refined and changed, and we're perfecting it. You know, you guys are helping us build this out, which is fantastic. But again, a lot of times, just kind of like the news, right? We always hear bad things on the news. We don't always hear about the good things. And there's all kinds of you guys out there that are crushing it with Command and having success and some wins. So again, as Marty suggested, please make sure that you're doing those things. And then last thing is that, you know, if you're in Texas South, reach out to Marty. You know, he can, you know, make sure that you get the resources you need to assist you with this kind of stuff. If you're in Mid-American, reach out to Mike. He can help you with this stuff. If you're in Maryland, DC, reach out to me. And if you're on here from any region outside of that, reach out to your RTT. They're a really great resource to leverage. A lot of times we'll see people post stuff on Facebook asking questions, and if they had just went to their Market Center Tech Trainer first, who could then escalate things to their RTT, a lot of the problems that I find when they finally do come to me, I'm able to solve those. And I know Marty can and Mike can as well.
Yeah, it's way faster than like posting on Facebook and being like, hey, did anybody else see this? And everybody's just agreeing with you, right? To get to a solution, start with your Market Center Tech Trainer.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys all, and thank you for joining in today. We'll see you guys next time.